Welcome. In this quick video, we're just going to cover taking your character and turning it into a template that's easy to distribute after you've added in master controllers. So something that is important to keep in mind on this is ideally the master controller should be contained inside the main character group. So inside the character group, I have a backdrop where I have attached my master controllers. Now, one thing that's nice is you can just click on the backdrop. It selects your different master controllers, and then you can click on the show controls, and then they pop up. I've also taken the liberty of moving my pivot points because otherwise they start right on the circle, and when we're zoomed out to kind of animation size, it sometimes is hard with the transform tool to select the actual control slider because the pivot point is now covering it. So if I click here on this, that the pivot point, so when that one is selected, the pivot point, if it's over the circle, we can see that at this zoom factor, they are the same size. So do make sure that you adjust that. That's not mandatory, but it makes it a lot easier. So again, if you put them in your master controller backdrop, that makes everything much handier. And on this one, I do have it set up so that the flip happened inside the character group on the master peg here, not on the scene peg. So it was important to be inside the character group and attaching it to the master controller composite, because if we attach it to the composite out here and decide, oh, well, distributing, I want to move it into the character group, that will break the link on the scripts and the scripts will no longer function. So the scripts, once they are created, the master controller node has to remain in the same place of your node hierarchy as when it was created. If you move it around, it will no longer function. So that is super, super important. So if we start with them out here and say, oh, I'll just move them in later, your scripts won't work. Your master controllers will be dead in the water, and then that's just no fun for anybody. All right, so we can hide those. We don't need to see them anymore. So a couple of things is if I just take where I have my initial frames, the initial character rig frames, then I have the frames I use for building the turnaround, I have the flipped frames that I use for pasting in that I'm just leaving there for reference. Then if I have any other posing frames that I used as building my character, master controllers, and if I'm demonstrating any other movements or other frames with it, so that's all part of the timeline. So if I have all of those together as part of the timeline, tightening those up so I have a little more room here. When I want to make this into a template, it really is as simple as grabbing, and this is a nice where we have our character, we have a scene peg, and then we have a composite with it already created. They're all prefixed correctly, so they're named. So if your nodes aren't all prefixed or suffixed correctly, you just highlight all your nodes and then you can click on the add prefix suffix, and then that takes care of it. So if I highlight these and just simply copy, if I go up into my library where I want to paste it, and if I choose paste, I get the note that this is read only. So we do have to remember to right click, right to modify. That unlocks it. So now I can paste it in here, and I'm going to just call this Punk Full Timeline. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scene and I'm going to take my scene and modify the length on it, and I'm going to modify it down to 1 frame. Now when we do that, it's down to 1 frame, and we can see we just have that starting keyframe. Highlight these nodes again, copy, go up here, paste. This time I'm going to name it Punk 1F, so it's 1 frame long. So depending on how you want to distribute your templates, you may want to give the full timeline and allow the animator who gets their hands on it to see all of those frames so they can work with it and modify it. But you may also want to just give them a one-frame template that's ready to start animating with, because it's all been tested, bulletproofed, and it's ready to go. So now that we have done that, I am going to just modify my scene length back to 60 so that it's there. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to make a brand new file, and this will be just give it a name, save it, and then we're going to add some characters to it, and let's see what happens. Alright, so first thing, I'll just delete that existing node. We don't need that. I was in my character template folder. So if I grab the one frame punk and pull it down, stick it into my project, we can see there it is. I'll just move it over. We go into the punk, zoom out so I can go find the master controllers. Just click on the backdrop. Click the show controls. There it is. Notice I have a clean timeline. It's one frame long, so we can expand it out. We can see none of the other keyframes came with. Now if I'm here, let's grab our transform tool, no interpolation, and now we can see it's working exactly as we wanted it to. So this allows us to have a clean timeline when we bring it in. And our master controller is indeed functioning, so that's good. Now let's just go click on that. Let's see if I get lucky and put it over here. Does it actually join it? And it didn't bury it some random place deep off screen. Okay, so now we have our punk character there, but you can also see all the other frames came with it. So if you want to provide the full timeline, you just grab your nodes, copy it, paste it into your library, you're good to go. That creates the TPL file, so you can share that with anybody. You can throw it up on Gumroad, you can sell it, give it away for free, all kinds of fun stuff. Now, if you want to do a one frame, so it's just nice and clean, so you're not kind of giving away your magic, and giving it a clean timeline so people don't have to then go in. If I wanted to animate with this character, what I may want to do then is to just simply clear all of those keyframes, and we can see, all right, I'm just going to clear everything and then re-F5 it so it's clean. So now we can go ahead and animate with it. So we have to do a little bit more work. It's no big deal. But depending on how you are giving a rig to someone. So if it's the first time someone's getting the rig, they may want the full timeline so they can better understand how the rig functions and is constructed. If you're giving it so that someone's used it before and they just want to get going with it and they're already familiar with it, the one frame one may be the better option for bringing it into a scene so they don't have to kind of sanitize everything before they can start animating. So that's really all it takes to create that template after you've added in the master controllers. But it is super, super important that as you do this, that you make sure that where this is connected in your node hierarchies doesn't change once you have created the master controller. If you want to move these, so if you want to attach this composite somewhere else, you want to move it out of the character rig, you're going to have to remake your master controllers because you will break the connections to the path names that are contained in the script file that is the master controller. So good luck and have fun.